We want to welcome back to the show longtime friend Steve Bloom from the Commonwealth Foundation. Good morning. How are you, sir?
I am well. How are you, RJ? Good morning.
I'm well as well. Good morning. Glad to have you on. Holly got perked up when she heard you were going to be on, so we're glad to have you back on the show. But not talking about anything that's too pleasant, meaning the state budget.
Absolutely, RJ. And last time we talked on air, it was I checked back on my calendar. It was August 4th, and we were talking about the state budget. It was already a month late. The House Democrats had reneged on their budget deal that they made with the governor and the senators, and the Republicans that control the Senate. The Democratic House leadership had agreed to a deal, but they had reneged on it. Governor Shapiro vetoed his own top priority. The Democrat-controlled House then left town, and that was back on August 4th. Here we are now, October 6th, 2 more months added on, and we're basically in the same situation. The House finally, the Democratic-led House, finally came back into session this past week after literally being away for 3 months, not doing anything while this unresolved budget was causing all sorts of damage for folks across the board, everything from 911 to hospitals to county courts. Everyone has been starting to really feel the pain of the budget not being done. Democrats had left town for 3 months. They came back in. Optimistically, we were hoping and encouraging them to put some serious budget legislation on the table that would wrap things up, that was in accordance with the three-way deal between the governor, the Republican-controlled Senate, and the Democratic-controlled House. But instead, what they did was pass profoundly unserious legislation. They put together a fiscal code bill that is just completely phony. It doesn't do what it's supposed to do. It's not even a serious effort at reaching a compromise. It's purely partisan gamesmanship that House leaders, including the House Majority Leader Matt Bradford, a Democrat from down in the Philadelphia suburbs. And here we are, 3 months later, still no budget. The Lifeline program that was key to Governor Shapiro and the House and the Senate Republicans still waiting to be implemented, and the House Democrats just taking it almost as if it's all a big joke.
Okay, but where is the governor in all of this? He is viewed as a pretty persuasive guy. You would think that they'd be in lockstep with whatever he wants.
And that is the $1 billion question, RJ, because where is Governor Shapiro on this? He had spoken on national TV a week before the original budget deadline of June 30th, talking about how important the school choice program, the Lifeline scholarship program was. Then he kind of went and just took himself out of the equation, and even still, he is not leading in a way that's necessary. He's got to get in there as the governor. He's got that bully pulpit, talk to those House Democrats who are literally the only ones holding up the deal, and get them on board. He's the governor. We know that if these things come up in the House, even though it's democratically controlled, most of these things are going to pass easily if they get to the House floor. But the House has been carefully managing itself in such a way as to prevent these important bills from actually reaching the floor. And instead, they're sending these ridiculously highly partisan bills, just loaded with all these liberal handout goodies that they know that Republicans aren't going to be able to vote for, and they're trying to present that as if it's a real effort at negotiation, when it's not.
But
and that's on the governor, right? I agree. He's got to use that bully pulpit,
right? Well, I come back to that, and here's what I think, Steve. There's got to be an advantage or a game being played here by the governor, or he'd be in their face. I really think that there's some advantage that's going on for him here. I'm not sure what it is. Do you?
Well, I think he has those national aspirations. It's been talked about a lot. He was up in New Hampshire just the other weekend, and he's got national public sector union money on the line that they want him to toe that pro teachers union line, and if he crosses it, I think he endangers his ability to raise funds nationally for his presidential run.
Well, it is interesting because I mentioned yesterday that I was listening to, I think it's called Random Room or Room Random with Bill Maher, where they just sit around and talk. And Bill Maher smoked dope during the whole thing, oddly enough. But at any rate, he had James Carville on. And James Carville said there are some stars in the Democrat Party. We just don't know it. He didn't say it exactly like that, but, and when Maher said, well, who are they? Shapiro was at the top of that list. Shapiro was the first name out of his mouth. So,
and here he is.
Yeah. So
he's presiding over a 3-month late budget crisis that he doesn't seem willing to resolve.
Well, see, that's the thing. That's what puzzles me, is that if he's going to run for national office, and everybody thinks that he is at some point, wouldn't you want your resume to be in check to show that you governed and during this time you were able to say, no, this is what we need to do and get it done?
Exactly. And if he's going to do that someday, whether it's sooner or later, he's going to have to win Pennsylvania. And Pennsylvanians are going to see that this track record, something maybe you can go to New Hampshire and talk about it, and people don't know the ins and outs of what you're doing. But in Pennsylvania, we know, we've been watching this governor. And although he's talked a good game, he hasn't used his bully pulpit. He hasn't used his power as governor to really rein in the House Democrats that are running amok and preventing this whole thing from being resolved.
So how long will this go on, really? I mean, are we continuing to pay the bills, but not at a level we need to, and that's why they're feeling pain? Or why is what's going on here? Because of the court ruling some years ago, there's no longer the problem of immediately paying the state workers and all that. So the budget crisis sort of comes on more slowly now. All right.
But now it's really showing up because there's hospital funding that's being held up. There's funding for 911 that's being held up. There's county court fees are in limbo. The courts can't charge the normal fees that they charge to keep their operations going. So all of that is starting to sink in now, and the Democrats are just being immature. They're not presenting any sort of actual negotiable product. Instead, they're passing stuff they know that isn't going to get anywhere, and it's just going to drag this on. And apparently, the governor's okay with that, and certainly it appears that Democratic leader of the House, Matt Bradford, is okay with that. So while Pennsylvanians are suffering.
So it really is the governor who has to break the backlog, because the House doesn't seem to be interested in. So it's really the governor has to get it done.
Yeah, and and keep in mind, like this is a Democratic controlled House. Our state representatives from the mid-state almost across the board have been doing heroic work, but they are in the minority in the House.
Right.
So really, it all comes down to holding the line with our senators, and again, our senators in the WHP listening area, Mike Regan, Greg Rothman, DeSanto, Martin, Ahmed, Phillips Hill, Mastriano, Gephardt, Culver, Judy Ward, they've all been outstanding. They've been holding the line against the ridiculous overspending and the new taxes that the Democrats just proposed. So we've got the right people in the right places, other than we've got to get the governor to get engaged. And so, I'd encourage listeners to please talk to your senators, tell them thank you for standing strong. Push this thing. We've got to keep fighting.
All right, Steve Bloom, we'll hang in there. Mark this day on your calendar. We'll get together again.
I hope we're not back here in 2 more months doing the same thing.
Well, I hope you're right about that. Always great to talk to you. Send my regards to everybody at the Commonwealth Foundation.
And thank you.
All right, take care. Steve Bloom.